Shalom, shalom again. This is a very, very quick video that I am putting out there because after I finished recording my previous video about what God said in relation to our leaders, Ruto, Raila, Uhuru, and their spouses, Rachel, Ida, and Margaret Kenyatta, I got a cup of tea and whatever I needed because it was still early here for me. Because I've not been sleeping properly. I've been sleeping different hours. Anyway, I wanted to say that I went to YouTube like half an hour ago, 20 minutes ago, and so, or Nation newspapers, and so that Chebukati has agreed to announce the election results, presidential elections results at 3 p.m. Kenyan East African time, which is 1 p.m. my time, which is going to happen in the next 35 minutes. And I have this video out because when the elections in the US were happening last year, there were so many prophetic words. People said Donald Trump will get back in the White House. Others said he won't. Majority of the prophets had that it was God's will for Donald Trump to win the elections. The problem with the prophetic office, and I don't use that word lightly. The problem, not with the office itself, but the problems that ensue from you being told by God to say certain things. One of those problems is inaccuracy of maybe interpreting something. Some people see visions all the time. I do see visions, but not a lot. What I do more of I dream a lot. And I don't like being woken up like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning because that's my dreaming time usually. But a lot of the time when I've dreamt with leaders in different nations, as I pointed out in my previous video, that Kenya, my home country, Israel, my spiritual country, England, my resident country right now, America, I would call it my ministry country because the Lord has used me a lot. Although I've never really stepped foot physically in America, I've done a lot in America in the spirit. Okay? So those 4 nations, the Lord always talks to me about them. But I've said before, the Lord uses me in different nations, in the Middle East, Russia, Korea, Indonesia recently, Singapore, other nations. The Lord just gives me information about those nations and I pray about them. You're an intercessor, so the Lord gives you stuff, okay? Other European nations as well. But in relation to elections per se, those 4 nations that I've mentioned, Kenya, Israel, England, and America, I have never not been informed what's going on in those nations. And I'm always vocal because you're given a message, you're supposed to spew it out or spit it out or tell it to the people. And I shared this dream. Because dreams are complicated in that when you speak to for instance, my friends or other people, they say dreams need interpretation. Sometimes I don't interpret dreams. I just take them literally as they are. Like when I saw Benjamin Netanyahu in a dream in 2020, that I met him on the streets of London and he was alone with his son and they were carrying a little bag like you would carry a bouguet, like the bread, the French bread, the long one, bouguet or bouguet. he had no security. And again, the Lord allowed me to wake up from that dream. I said hello to the sun and I introduced myself in Hebrew. And I went to the bathroom. I came back to bed. I slept again. I dreamt. Apparently, it was the continuation of that dream, or part two of that dream. Actually, that is the better. If I was writing a play, that is how I'd write it. And I found Benjamin Netanyahu in the house that was mine. And uh, he stood where my washing machine. I stood where my washing machine. First of all, I entered. As I was entering the house, there was this being that was really big that I didn't actually see his face, but I could feel his body. He was like a really good male person who's really worked on his body so that it's like you're hitting against a rock or something. I knew he had the frame of a human being, but I didn't see him, but I felt his body, which was like steel, he's really worked his muscles. And um, he was guarding the main door, the entrance into the house. So I went into my house. I turned right as I would normally. And as I went towards the where the washing machine and the bathroom and whatever are, because my washing machine was not in the kitchen, uh, even in the natural, it wasn't in the kitchen. Um, I Between my bedroom and the toilet, there was an extra room in the dream, which was not the reality. And in that room, that's tiny. It wasn't tiny. It was just a room that sat weirdly. It was like a triangular. It was sliced. It was a, I don't know architecturally what I would say, but it was difficult for you to, because there was my bedroom, a store, the toilet, and then on the other side, the washing machine room and whatever. And then, so they would have cut off a piece between the store, the bedroom, and the toilet in order to make that room in the dream. That's how I saw it. And that's where Benjamin Netanyahu was with some people that I didn't know. And oh, no, I knew one person. Oh, God. Wow. Always the same person. My elder brother was in there with them. And sure. And a guy who had blonde hair, or very light brown hair. It looked blonde in the dream, and he was young. And I've seen with my naked eyes when I'm in Israel, the presidential, the prime ministerial, the people who guard, who work around the president, their PAs or whatever, the male ones, they're usually quite young. They don't look threatening to anybody. They're tiny because most Israelis are small physically. And this guy looked like that, one of those Israeli guys who are just like, you can just pass him in the street and maybe even shove him and not know he can whack you to death. But that's not the point. The point is, I noticed in particular that guy. I don't know why. And I always remember him. He was a little bit apart from where Benjamin Netanyahu sat. And where Bibi sat was on a bench that looked like those benches that you see covered with fake leather in, for instance, sporting in gyms. So it was long like that, sort of metallic, and he was sitting on it. And then there were other security people around him, and I knew there were security people. So when I woke up, I just knew Benjamin Netanyahu he's gonna lose, he's gonna step out of office somehow. But I kept asking the Lord, what's gonna happen with Bibi this time? Is he gonna lose the elections or what? And the Lord kept saying, no, he will win. But then I didn't understand how there was a break between when I saw him on the streets of London alone without any security people. So I kept praying about it. I even fasted. And I understood Bibi will be elected, but he will be rejected because normally they have to form a coalition of some kind with the fellow politicians. And it is true, to the word of the Lord, Benjamin got Likud passed. Likud was voted in, had more votes than the other parties, but the other parties obviously led by Yair Lapid and what's his name, Bennett, and then the others, the Gideon Saar and the others, they didn't want him, so they formed this crazy coalition of, I think, 8 different people from everywhere, and they formed a government which collapsed recently. So even Bennett did not finish his 2-year term. So Yair Lapid is the current Prime Minister of Israel. So, as I said, I try not to interpret dreams because some dreams are just that. Like, how can you interpret the dream that Jacob had, the dream of the ladder, or with the ladder to heaven? You see, he saw what he saw. You are there. It's like you are there, or whether you are not there or you are there, at least you saw a ladder, angels coming back and forth, up and down from heaven, and the Christ seated on the top. So, or standing. So the dream that I had about Ruto, well, I've had several dreams about him, but this is really special because the first one, as I said in several videos, is that he came to my neighborhood and I went across to my friend's house. My friend is actually from Sierra Leone, and I noticed yesterday there's a significance between that because during these elections, Sierra Leone counting of the electoral votes, Sierra Leone had scuffle in their country, Sierra Leone's. So I went to my friend's house, and her house didn't look like it always is. So to my right was her, I think her kitchen, or a door that leads to a kitchen or something. And Ruto was sitting on the western side facing east, and I was sitting on the eastern side facing him. And after he finished speaking to this lady, um, she left. She went through that door that I think led to the kitchen, and she didn't come back. I thought she'd gone to get him maybe a cup of tea or something. She didn't come back. And we sat there. He's looking at the door. I'm looking at the door. I'm wondering where she's going. But I didn't rise to go and fetch her because it's her house. She knows what she's doing. But then I'm getting anxious. And I decided to engage him because he too didn't have any security personnel with him. He was just alone. And I decided to engage Ruto and ask him about the political situation. So we had a comfortable discussion. He answered my questions, the questions that I asked him. We discussed certain things, and then I woke up from the dream. Josephine had not come back. So I went to the bathroom, came back to bed, slept, started to dream again. And that is when I saw that I had come back to now my house, and my house was not where it is. It was high up, really high up, and I could see down. There was it was really long, a long car park, but there was not a single car on it. And there were men. I don't know how many there were, not many, maybe 10 or 12 or something like that, not a really huge number. And one of them was my elder brother, the same one that I said I dreamt with in relation to Bibi Netanyahu. And some of those people, I knew their stance. They were people who used to say that Ruto is corrupt, blah, blah. But my brother lifted Ruto up and put him on his shoulders, and then they started just jumping around with him and rejoicing. So I'm watching Kenyan men in the car park, in our car park, apparently, which didn't have any cars. I don't know where the cars were. It was totally deserted apart from that scene of Ruto being lifted and people dancing, Kenyan men dancing. And I knew that these people had now embraced him, Ruto, who they used to say was corrupt. He's the most corrupt person in Kenya or whatever. So when I woke up, I just wrote the dream like I normally do. I shared it with my friends or my family, and I think two of my friends that we share such dreams or visions or whatever we see, experiences. And I kept praying for the Lord to help me to not interpret it wrongly, if that. But now, as I'm waiting for the election results to be announced, God, it's already 15 minutes. Now, as I'm waiting for the election results to be announced, I'm asking myself, was that dream true? Part of it, the first part, has definitely been fulfilled. The reality was, Ruto did actually come to London, and then he went obviously back to Kenya. I didn't see him. And the election was done obviously last week on Tuesday, but we are yet to find out who our president is. But I'm looking forward to seeing if he'll be lifted up, not physically, because obviously people are not allowed to do that to the president, but if he's going to be the one that is atarushwa juu, watu wakisherekea ushindi wake kwa sababu Mungu amemshindania or not. And then from that, I think I will try and work out if I need to start interpreting dreams or asking the Lord to help me interpret all of my dreams, because I have had a lot of dreams recently, including the gorilla from the north, which I dreamt recently, just before China started hassling Taiwan, and other dreams that God has allowed me to see about certain nations and certain individuals and things. So I ask that the Lord help us to take Kenya on the next stage peacefully. So let's see whether I need to change the tactic of welcoming dreams into my life, or interpreting dreams, or not interpreting dreams. Shalom.